Fit to Love, episode 97, 3 Steps to Overcoming Resistance to Exercise.
Fit to Love is physical, emotional, and spiritual fitness to achieve the happy life you deserve. From exercise to cooking, relationships, and spirituality, you'll find all the inspiration you need right here with our host, JJ Flizanes.
Hello and welcome to Fit to Love Thoughtful Thursdays. Today's show, 3 Steps to Overcoming Resistance to Exercise. This was a show that I was interviewed for with Ms. Rita Black, who's been on my show several times. She's a hypnotherapist and her company is Shift Weight Mastery, and I was one of the experts on her group calls, and we were talking about transcendence with exercise and wanted to outline that within that transcendence, really it broke down into 3 steps about overcoming any resistance people had to regular exercise or just exercise in general. So I hope you'll enjoy the show. Before we start, I do need to take a moment to thank our sponsors. Get the hottest tips and latest trends for your business success with today's Innovative Woman magazine, a free print and online digital magazine. Plus, receive the special bonus video series, Platforms for Profit, the must-have marketing essentials for outrageous success, taught by media and marketing strategist Kathy Alessandra. Who is today's innovative woman? She's a smart and savvy business owner. She is driven and committed to success. She invests in herself and her business on everything from products to grow her knowledge, services to grow her business, and events to learn and connect with potential clients and customers. You can claim your free subscription today and get it mailed to your home or office at today'sinnovativewoman.com. Did you know that 88% of your mind is subconscious? That means that the thoughts, beliefs, and feelings that are running your life are old, outdated programs that are hard to change with the conscious mind. The 6-week Beachbody program is a hypnosis-based program that tackles weight loss from the inside out and the outside in, using hypnotherapy for the mind and science for the body. If you're tired of trying diet after diet to only repeat the same patterns over and over again, and not getting results, consider the 6-week Beachbody hypnosis-based program. Visit the products page on fittolove.tv to download it now.
JJ Flizane, who is going to join us today because she's our expert call, and we're going to dive into how do you transcend where you're at to where you want to go with exercise. And I think here we are at the beginning of the year, and it's a perfect time to really reflect upon that. Let's dive into transcendence, because that's what I really feel like is about. You and I had a little conversation about this before. I mean, I think this year is really about diving into the year and opening ourselves up to where can we improve, and what is that idea of transcendence, and is it just improvement, or is it really putting ourselves out there in a way in all areas of our life, but physically, obviously, is a really good starting place. So I love that idea. So I have my first question for you, JJ, which is, how does one change their relationship to exercise or make changes towards attaining their goals?
Obviously, this call will be more about the strategy of our minds and of the thinking, as well as integrating strategy of habits after that. First, you have to get the plan down in your mind of what it is that we think about when we think about exercise. And so the first thing I would recommend is that people have to identify their needs. So what is the need that you have with your body in relationship to exercise? So we're going to just use exercise, but identifying your needs. What do you want from exercise? Not do you want to do it, what do you want from it? Because if you've already decided that it's something that you'd like to put into your life, or that you need to put in your life, for what reasons, and defining those. Because what I find is that there are too many, and I wrote a whole blog post about this for the Daily Love last month. It was called The Most Violent Word We Use, which is should. Marshall Rosenberg, author of Nonviolent Communication and creator of the whole movement of nonviolent communication, deems should as one of the most violent words that we use. And the reason is because should indicates we have no choice. And because most of us like our autonomy and our freedom, when we feel we don't have a choice, we don't like it. And so emotionally, vibrationally, whatever you may call it, we're sort of searching out our independence. And that's why I believe a lot of people rebel. Because when you tell yourself that you should do something, it doesn't acknowledge that you're choosing to do it. You're forcing it on yourself as something that you have no choice in. And then, of course, you don't do it. And the reason you don't do it is because you haven't decided that you want it.
Right.
Want is a much stronger word for you to focus on because it means you're choosing it.
Absolutely. Our inner critic likes to say, you've got to do this, you should do this, whereas what you're saying is want, because words are very powerful in the brain, and when you say want, it immediately repositions exercise, and there's an opening there, versus should, like you said, kind of shuts it down.
And should also, I believe, is shaming. And when you're going to shame yourself, of course, how does that motivate anybody? You've just shamed yourself into doing something and basically scolding yourself. So that word, when it comes to yourself, is abusive. And when it comes to others, it's very limiting. So the whole word in general, ever since I wrote that, I've been trying very hard not to use it at all. And when I do find myself saying it, trying to find another word, because it's so commonly used. And sometimes it doesn't have the same charge to it, but definitely when it comes to exercise or self-care or changing your habits, besides the fact that it limits your choice and therefore your freedom, it's definitely very shaming. So I recommend everyone to consider using a different word. So identifying your needs. So back to the needs and the wants. Why do I want to exercise? What do I want from exercise? Because that why is what's going to keep you motivated. It's going to keep you focused. What happens with the shoulds and what happens with the shaming becomes the conversation and the focus on all the bad things. Why should you exercise? I should exercise because I'm overweight, because I'm getting flabby, because I don't have enough muscle mass, because I can't move very freely, because I'm stiff and I don't have a lot of strength. And it goes into focusing on the negative stuff.
Right.
When, again, focusing on the negative is not going to give you energy, because, again, negative is a lower vibration, a lower frequency emotion than something of want or desire, which can propel you into action. So strengthening your why. And that why can be, the story around the why. Because when people exercise, again, in my experience, if they're coming from the should, it's that they're talking to themselves in a way that's scolding, that's shaming, and not very loving. It's coming from fear, it's coming from dissatisfaction. And the first step is to identify that you're doing that, and then to say, how can I shift this? And how you can shift that is to refocus on the wants and the needs and the expectations of what you'd like from it. So that would be the first thing, to write down the goals. What do I want from it? Why am I asking myself to do this? And because of that, again, we're focusing on more positive feelings. And we're focusing forward on what we'd like to have. And hopefully in that idea of what you'd like to have or grow or build into or be different, that evokes some positive feelings. In the law of attraction world that I live in, one of the best lines that I think I've ever heard Abraham say was that you wouldn't drive looking in the rearview mirror. Right? So looking back at the past, looking at what hasn't happened. That's when you're driving, you're looking forward. You're looking at where you're going. You're focused on forward action, not backward motion. So in order to do that, in order to be able to, I think, get the skill set and train your mind and train your conscious thoughts into choosing thinking forward, we might want to identify, it might be helpful to identify that story. So in order to transcend something, we're going to go from where we are to where you want to be, but that is a different story. That's a different feeling. That's a different way of looking at life. So your first step is going to be identifying your needs and your wants and really getting clear about your why and having that why come from something in your body that tells you, yes, that's what I want. So whether it's a visualization or it's a modeling, you're looking at someone else who has something that you would like, and your conversation is positive into that you can get there too. And boy, won't that be great to have that, to feel like that, to be able to do that. That conversation and strengthening that why is the foundation to keep the fuel going when times get tough, when you fall off the wagon, or so to speak, or something happens to put you in a mood that you can't get out of for a little while, like an hour or a day, is to refocus on the why and deepen that experience.
I think you're absolutely right. I think once we've opened up the brain and we talk about engaging the inner coach, so we have the critic who says, well, you should, and that shuts us down. The inner coach, as you said, we focus on our vision and what is it that we want to create, because, again, that engages our imagination, that engages that ability to stretch past where, like you said, looking backwards, where we have all the failures, the oh, well, I haven't done it before, I don't have time, all the limiting beliefs, and we now are creating a vision so powerful and that evokes emotion in us and desire that we're able to step into that possibility and stretch ourselves past, which I think is a big part of transcendence, is stretching ourselves past all of the story, the negative story, and also past our comfort zone, which is, whatever feels comfortable is keeping us exactly where we are. So I think moving forward towards what you desire, that's what I'm hearing you're getting at, JJ, is you've got to propel yourself forward, because there are going to be times when it feels uncomfortable, or it might feel new or foreign or weird to wake up early, or if you're used to working out half hour a day to work out 45 minutes a day to an hour a day, that might feel weird, or it's too hard. Gauging that desire and having that powerful vision will be your fuel to keep you going.
Absolutely. And hopefully that fuel will be the next step that I'm going to highly recommend everybody do. If you're finding yourself continually getting stuck in the same habit, is to figure out what your story is. What is the story that you're telling yourself? Because here's the thing, you made it up. And you can change it. So many times I start working with someone who thinks that they'll call themselves, I'm not an exerciser. Mm-hmm. Okay. And so as long as you continue to repeat that in your head, that's what you're going to manifest. You are not an exerciser. So of course you're going to have resistance to it every time. But again, we focus on the needs and the wants and strengthening the why. But now let's look at the story. The story was that you're not an exerciser, yet you really would like to shape up your body and look better in your clothes and feel strong and feel energetic and feel good in your body, so that you know that you could accomplish and, climb the stairs without huffing and puffing. Okay, now that we focus on what I want, so what does that story look like? How does that change? And how does that change your relationship to this activity that you keep telling yourself? It's the only reason we all have habits of a story is because we've practiced them over and over and over. And maybe somebody told you that. Maybe that's just what you've decided. I don't know if anyone who's listening has ever had the experience of having someone else's vision of you change your vision of you. Someone else's outside perspective about what you do, how you do it, who you are, who they think you are. And then they tell it to you and you go, wow, I never thought of myself like that. Because they see it differently. And so, you could do that as an exercise. You could ask friends and family and whomever you choose to ask, clients, whatever, what do you think about me? And that doesn't mean that if they say something that you don't like, that you necessarily own that either. But if someone has a more positive view of you than you do, I would say you can borrow that belief for a little while and try it on and see how it feels. And if it works and you're like, I like that story, then tell that story. Because the story that you're telling is keeping you stuck, potentially. I'll give a quick example. It's not in terms of exercise, but it's a story I've been telling in my Power of Positive Thinking class. Years ago when I first started my business, I used to read Entrepreneur magazine. And what I found, I get so excited about all the ideas. I couldn't even make it past 5 pages without a list of ideas about products and marketing ideas and all kinds of, I love the creativity fire that came out of me when I started to read this magazine. However, what happened is because I would get so flooded with so many ideas, and my to-do list would become pages upon pages long. And all of a sudden, I built up this expectation in myself to complete everything on the list, or at least examine it, that I created anxiety in me. And I said, it's never going to end. This list is never going to end because I'm going to always have creative ideas. So I had to stop reading it. And so I can say for about 10 years, I stopped reading Entrepreneur magazine. I picked it up about a year ago, and now I have a whole new relationship with it. Now I'm looking at it, I accept that I'm going to have creative ideas all the time, and I'm going to write them down, but I'm in no rush, and I have a whole different relationship. I've worked on myself in many different ways in the last 10 years, and I am so all about the trusting and allowing and leveraging that I trust that the right thing will show itself when I'm in the right space. Divine timing will show me what the next thing to do is, but I at least write it down. So I'm now reading Entrepreneur magazine, and I'm now looking at possibility. So here are all these different companies, all different sizes, all different areas of business that are now doing things that I didn't even know were possible.
Right.
And so the benefit now that I have a different relationship with it is to open my eyes to things that I didn't know were possible. How many times does someone think something's impossible and someone else somewhere around the world has done it? Albert Einstein failed 10,000 times before electricity was created. How many of us have done anything 20 times? and failed and kept going.
Yeah.
10,000 times.
All the time. It's amazing, especially like with people who wrote amazing books and that we just take for granted. They got published right away, and then you hear it took them 3 or 4 years to get it published, and 150 rejections from publishing companies. It is amazing.
The guy that bought Starbucks, he got refused 200 times about his proposal to create what is now Starbucks. But it started with the why. He was excited about the vision of the coffee shop that he saw in his mind that was actually in Italy, that he went and had a whole experience and brought it back, had a business plan put together, and then asked for money. So the point of the vision and the why is going to be that core value, that core desire, that burning desire that you have to grow into something better, stronger, whatever it is that you want. That has to be the first step. Then you have to look at, well, what keeps stopping me from getting there? What am I telling myself? What is the story? Is the story that, I'm divorced and I have 3 kids and I don't have any time? And is that the story that you're telling yourself? And that doesn't mean it doesn't have to be true. Okay, that's true. But how many other people are doing something different or have worse? So, again, what is your story? First, I think you have to identify what you are telling yourself so that you consciously can change it. If you don't have any idea, then you don't know where to start. And all you keep doing is throwing stuff against the wall saying, I want this, I want this, I want to do this, but then all of a sudden you regress into the pattern that you've been living that's based on the story that you're telling yourself. So if you're ready, if you can take some time, really ask yourself, what is that story that I'm telling myself? What are these beliefs that keep getting in the way of transcending into a new relationship with exercise or with whatever? It works for every part of your life, but it will definitely work with exercise.
Cool. So what's the third step, JJ, in this? We have the want and desire, and then
So we have the identifying your needs and what you want. That I'm kind of putting that in the same line, your needs and your wants, even though they might be two different things. Strengthening your why. Why am I doing this? So why do I want that? Right? Because you can want something and the why of why you want it isn't very strong. Like I can say I want to have another home somewhere in the world, but do I want it that badly? Why do I need it? For fun. And that's a great goal. It's not as much as I want to have another home in California so I can have my parents stay here for 6 months out of the year. That's a much stronger why for me than having a home somewhere else just for fun.
I think when you're saying that, JJ, it brings to mind with regards to exercise that a lot of times I think we bring to exercise, I get a lot of clients who come and say, well, I know I should be exercising, but there is no clear reason why. Because we're given these standards. Oh, you need to be working out 3 times a week, or that's what the government says you should be doing, or that's what your doctor says you should be doing. And so there's this feeling of, well, I know I should be exercising and I'm not exercising and I feel bad about that, versus what I'm hearing you're saying is like, I really want to feel strong in my legs. Like I want to be able to, when I walk, I want to just feel like I'm moving forward with power and when it feels free. And I think a lot of times when I'm working with people, and I've been bringing this up a lot in workshops, is definitely there is the vanity part. We want to look good. Oh, I want to have ripped abs, or I want to, firm up my triceps. But I think on top of that is self-esteem, and on top of that is freedom. And I think, living our body in a really physically fit body allows us that freedom. I know for me, my desire, I look in the mirror and I know, I'm going to be 50 this year. There are things changing about my body. And sure, I would love to change a few things around and push up muscles that have sunk a little or other things that have sunk a little. But for me, my focus remains freedom, and not being, having a disease-free body, having a body that moves well, that where my joints don't hurt so bad because I'm staying fluid, I'm staying balanced. And so that really does help my mind focus on what are those things that I need to do with my workouts, burn calories, stay aerobically fit, make sure my joints are fluid, balanced. So I think, when you focus on your freedom, and for a lot of listeners out there, maybe your freedom is if you're struggling with joint pain or you're feeling like your middle section needs to be firmed up because osteoporosis, or worrying about just the slouchy shoulders. And that freedom for you might be able to walk down the street and just feeling that your posture is better, and that looking good is one thing, but that freedom from just living in a body that you don't feel serves you 100% or serves you to bring your best self, to your everyday life.
Absolutely. And I would add, on top of the freedom or in line with the freedom, love, to feel love for yourself, love making choices based on a place of love. That's actually one of the reasons I wrote Fit to Love. It's not just for single people like looking for relationships. It's really for everybody who wants to transform. There are a ton of people that go to the gym and work out and are focused on it. There's no judgment against wanting to look good. Hey, it's great to look good. It feels good to look good. But then there's a difference of looking good because you feel good looking good or looking good because you think others will love you because you look good. And that's coming from fear. And there are plenty of people who definitely exercise with that fear-based mentality. And while it may get them a good-looking external, it might not be a very good experience of life. There may be other limitations on themselves. There may be some lack of inner peace and inner struggle and other things that are going on. That's why I definitely don't judge a book by its cover, because somebody looks good on the inside or on the outside doesn't mean it's all good on the inside. So in order to, in my opinion, keep people motivated, and whether you're disciplined or not, whether it's a once in a while or that it's just still there, that it's a form of nurturing for yourself, that you're exercising because you love yourself and you love your body and you respect yourself, not because you're going to tell yourself every moment that you're doing it that you hate that part of your body and that you can't wait to look better because no one likes the way you look now and because you hate the way you look now. That inner conversation is the reason why most people aren't doing it, because nobody wants to abuse themselves like that. And so there's a big dysfunctional relationship with exercise when that fear-based conversation and shame-based, guilt-based conversation is happening in your head, which is why understanding what your story is can help you to identify if those are the conversations you're having with yourself. If you don't love your body right now the way it is, if you cannot accept it for where it is and tell it it's okay, you wouldn't look at a child who fell down who's trying to walk and say, "Get up, you little dummy," because you understand that the child will learn to walk. It's part of the process, and you'd be nurturing and loving. Now, if you can just turn the table to yourself and say, "It's okay, it's all right, I'll do it tomorrow," or I'll get there, and use a little bit more nurturing, loving conversation with yourself, then you're going to find when you do it, you experience a different level of satisfaction. It's not just, oh, I accomplished something and I know I'm doing something good for my body, but it's a form of self-nurturing versus self-abuse. So that would be the reason to know your story, so that you can start to identify where some of that, either the fear-based conversation or the love-based conversation is happening, and then start to change it and start to notice it when you're doing it.
So are there tools or methods that you have found that work really well for this?
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously what you're doing, hypnosis, is training and reprogramming the 88% of your mind that's unconscious or subconscious.
Right.
And that's the tape that you're maybe not aware of. I mean, you can definitely get to it with meditation and hypnosis, not all of it, but some of it, and you can start to hear some of that subconscious mind, but you have to quiet your mind in order to be able to hear it. So before you can quiet your mind, you have 12% of the conscious mind screaming at you. And that's the stuff you can hear. It doesn't take that much to stop and listen. What am I telling myself right now? Okay, so you're 12% of your mind that's conscious. And while hypnosis is an awesome tool, and I think immersion and doing it all the time, it's one of my best tools that I've used both for my clients and for myself for different reasons, because it's easy. You can just put the thing in your ears and lay down in bed. I mean, you don't have to do anything. You know, I've worked with people like yourself as well as a therapist who did a customized program for me. We have our own hypnosis program like you have. There's all kinds of different ways to do that. But so hypnosis obviously is, I'm a big, big fan of hypnosis, always have been. However, with that said, while you're immersing yourself in the 88% of your subconscious mind, you still are responsible for the 12% of your conscious mind. And if you can start to listen to what you're telling yourself, then you have power in that moment to make a different choice. Or if you've heard what you've said and it wasn't supportive, it wasn't loving, and it was shaming and guilting, to just rephrase it right then and there and start practicing a new way. We're all responsible for at least that 12% on a daily basis, in my opinion. So that's the first and biggest tool for sure. The second tool and method that I found to help with this is going to be, well, law of attraction for sure, and power positive thinking. Again, that's what I'm talking about with this 12% of your conscious mind, focusing forward instead of focusing in the back, retraining the story that you're telling yourself. What do you want to experience? Because you can't manifest it if you don't know what it is. I know there are people who have this in their mind, like they've said, oh, I'll never be this, fill in the blank, whatever that is. I'll never be. And the minute that you say that, it's disempowering. It just sucks your energy out. Of course, then it doesn't make anyone want to do anything. So if there's a statement like that, like let's say, for instance, many of you over 50, right? So there's menopause. Happens all the time. Women will say, oh, well, I'll never be back in the body that I had before. Okay, so Maybe not, because there's been some genetic things that have happened, hormonal things that have happened. But rather than saying it like that, you can rephrase it and say, while I may not be, and soften it, while I may not be the body I was at 18, I know I can have a really fit and healthy body at any age.
Right.
The difference is how much energy, time, and effort you want to put into it, and how much you really want to buy into that belief. It all comes down to the belief system. It all comes down to what do you believe and what are you telling yourself. It's belief that I can do anything I put my mind to. It's belief that if they can do it, I can do it. It's a belief that if I want it, I can get it. There is always a way.
I think you're absolutely right that staying focused forward, again, we have that inner coach that what we really focus on is staying connected to ourselves and engaging. And that I think that power of positive thinking is we have that hard time with ourselves. So I did want to ask, what are the factors involved with people who have successfully done this? So what do you see is the through line, is the forward thinking? I mean, what would you say is the absolute number one top priority? Like if somebody was going to take this conversation and move the needle for themselves, what would that be?
It may sound funny what I'm going to say, but it's what I truly believe is to be the truth is when someone's really ready. You have to really be ready to let go of some of these things that aren't working for you, because there's that emotional side of the awareness, that you're aware of it. You know it. You get it. Even an aha breakthrough of, oh, my gosh, this is something I haven't looked at or that I need and want to put focus on. But then there's the strategy part. So without the strategy to integrate that aha into action steps, doable, appropriate for you action steps in your life, in your habits and patterns, it doesn't integrate, it doesn't translate, and therefore then you're just going to cycle back through to the beginning again and wonder why it didn't work. So you have to really be ready, whether you call it divine timing, whether you call it I'm just ready, right? Because, again, maybe for years and years there was the should. I should do this, I should do this, I should do this. And maybe you did some of it, but it didn't really make a big difference because, again, you weren't really ready. The pain of the present was not greater than the fear of the future. Right. When you get to that place, when you say, I'm ready. And so in the process, so some of you may or may not be ready, but you're hearing this and you know that one day I'm going to be ready. So maybe use that as the nurturing starting point to say, am I ready? Ask yourself honestly, am I ready? And if you're not, then let that be okay. The thing is, the shoulding conversation keeps you stuck. You may find that if you ask yourself, am I really ready for this? Am I ready to change this? And then your answer is truly, no, I'm not. And then all of a sudden you allow yourself that. You just allow yourself to be where you are. The next day you may wake up ready because you finally accepted where you are and said, this is where I am, and it's okay.
And going back to those expectations and not stacking them so high that it seems so crazy once you say, well, yeah, I'm not ready to do all of that, but maybe I'm ready just to walk for 5 minutes a day and just start the habit. That's fine too. And that's the strategy part, right? So that's part of the belief system. There's a lot of people that believe that in order to get good exercise, they have to do an hour a day in the gym. No, you don't. Who said that? Who said that? Some medical, okay. No, you can create anything. I did a class in Arizona in December that was 10-minute exercise routines to do while you're watching television. Again, it's a limiting belief to put all of these different things, like, oh, I have to have an hour a day, or another one, you have to have at least 20 minutes of good cardio to have any fat burning. No, that's not true. So, again, that's some of the limiting beliefs that you just may not know about. So that's the strategy side. The most important thing is it has to fit your life. It has to be something you're willing to do. It has to be a low-hanging fruit that you say, I can do that, and that you have no resistance to. Because what happens is when you at least take those steps and acknowledge and go at the pace that's good for you, it ends up becoming a snowball, and it will snowball into more. I can't tell you how many clients that I've had that told me they're not runners. And not that I'm telling people to run or that I have any expectation of people doing like running or whatever, but I've invited people to come do a race with me. Or when I had a lot of clients in Orange County, I set up a race for all my clients down there that we all did together. And lo and behold, years later, I've got a client now who's not only a runner, she just finished her first marathon. So her relationship with exercise was, I don't want to do it. And now if she doesn't run, she gets mad. You take it at the pace that's best for you, that feels good for you, that works for you, and you'll notice that as you start to acknowledge that and be okay with that and not have any kind of shame or guilt into any of it, that once you allow yourself that
freedom to do whatever you're willing to do, and then you start to see a little bit of results, it does transform and it does transcend. It will start to change. And but as long as you're standing there in fear and shooting yourself, then you're not going to be as likely to do that.
That is a really great opening for people to step into for the new year. Well, JJ, thank you so much for your time. I want to thank you, and your expertise is always, it's just always so great. I always learn something when you speak. It's great.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. You're welcome.
Do you want to learn more about your hormone health and how to get it properly tested? Then sign up for our Healthy Hormone Kit at nourishingwellness.com. This kit features healthy eating and lifestyle tips to help you heal your hormones naturally. The Fit to Love podcast show offers you 6 days a week of helpful content to achieve the happy life you deserve. Movement Mondays and Tasty Tuesdays are weekly videocasts, while Wellness Wednesdays, Thoughtful Thursdays, Freedom Fridays, and Sexy Saturdays are audio-only shows themed every week to address your holistic life and needs. If the show inspired you, we would love for you to share it and subscribe. Thank you so much for joining us today. Head on over to fittolove.tv for recaps of every show, resources, and to join the community. That's FIT, the number 2, LOVE.TV. Have a fit and fabulous day.